continually. No break from it. And it was so bad that the Lord said, I repented that I ever made man, that I ever created him. And it grieved him at his heart. You know, we think God is above emotion. Sometimes we think He's this great God up there, and He has no compassion whatsoever. Like He's this programmed being that can't hurt, can't be sad, can't be down, or whatever. Well, this grieved Him. This is not what He intended the world to be. And so it grieved Him at His heart. And He said, I'll destroy man whom I've created. Verse 7. From the face of the earth. And what's interesting is verse 8. Thank God for verse 8. But Noah found grace in the eyes of the Lord. Noah found grace. I want you to know something. Today is a dispensation of grace. Folks, we don't find grace in the eyes of the Lord. In this time, man does not live a life where we are living in such a high moral standard that God looks upon us and grace is bestowed upon us. There was something that Noah obviously was doing at this point in time to find grace from God Almighty. Anybody know what Noah was doing the entire time? The entire world with the mind, heart, and flesh and mouth was corrupt. What do you think Noah was doing? Anybody? What was his so-called occupation?
Preacher.
Say it?
Preacher.
He's a preacher. Imagine the entire world and the thoughts of the heart are evil continually. The entire world, to such a point that your God is going to destroy it, and you're there in the midst of all that by yourself. Why is our church so small? No, why was it just you? I mean, why didn't you have a multitude of grace preachers, you could say? Because this, the heart. So when Noah was preaching, and Donald said, sacrificing, he found grace in the eyes of the Lord because of it. Folks, God's grace finds us today. That's the difference. And so in verse 11, the earth also was corrupt before God, and the earth was filled with violence. And then in verse 12, and God looked upon the earth, and behold, it was corrupt, for all flesh had corrupted his way upon the earth. I noticed that his way upon the earth. That's interesting. You go back there, we're in Genesis. There's a reference to way. His way. In Genesis. I want you to turn. Look in John. Hopefully I'll move the right passage down. Look in John, John chapter 14. John 14. Look in verse 6. Y'all are familiar with it. Verse 6 of John 14, Jesus saith unto him, I am the what? The way, the truth, and the life. No man cometh unto the Father but by me. Then you look at Acts, turn over to Acts, and look at Acts 18. It's interesting. In Acts 18, look in verse 26. And he began to speak boldly in the synagogue, whom when Aquila and Priscilla had heard, They took unto him, that's a reference to Apollos in verse 24. They took unto them, and expounded unto him, Apollos, the way of God more perfectly. Look in Acts 19. In Acts 19, a lot of trouble being caused by Paul preaching here at Ephesus, verse 23. Acts 19, verse 23. And in the same time there arose no small stir about that way. The way. Genesis 6. They corrupted the way. Which had to do with, I'm not going to say it was the law. The law came later. But it had to do with law, commandments, and statutes. It was sacrifices involved there. Matter of fact, after the flood and the waters were seeded down, first thing that Noah did when he got off the ark, besides kiss the ground, you see he was on the ark a long time with animals and driving around. Y'all there? Where's Bonnie with a laugh track? He got off the ark. The first thing he did was do what? Build an altar for sacrifice. So there was some form of law, commandments, or statutes here, and it really came out with Moses giving them. And then, over here, the ministry of Christ. I am the way. Came here in flesh. So the way was in word back here. It was in the commandments back here. The way came here in flesh. Search the scriptures, and then you think you have eternal life. They are they which testify of me. But you won't come to me. Well, the way was there in the flesh. You had to turn to the Lord in the flesh at that point in time. The scriptures didn't show the way anymore. The Lord showed the way. Then he saved the Apostle Paul, and we're in the dispensation of grace. And Paul showed people about the way of God more perfectly. The word way runs through your Bible. Who is the way? It's the Lord. It's the Lord. In each given situation, it's different things about the way. For instance, the way here. You had to keep the commandments, but you had to sell all that you had. You had to leave house, jobs, family, and follow the Lord in the flesh. Paul comes over here and says, yea, though we have known Christ after the flesh, yet now henceforth know we him no more. But he still had the way. It's all correct, but it's just applicable at different times. That's called fundamentally rightly dividing the word of truth. And so they corrupted his way back there. What was wrong? The imagination, the thoughts of the heart had corrupted the entire world, so God wanted to destroy it. And that's exactly what he did to save Noah and his family. Thank God he did. Also, if you look over in 2 Peter, we're going to change kind of the thought process here relative to times in which God dealt with man and the sinfulness of man. Look in 2 Peter.